Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to be focusing on adolescence cognitive development. As always, make sure to click through the different audio buttons and any videos that pop up. Please make sure to take a peek at those at your own leisure and enjoy. Alright, so let's start with Piaget and cognitive development. So when we're in the fourth and final stage of cognitive development, also known as formal operational thought, we see that adolescents are characterized by being able to have the capacity for more flexible, reversible operations concerning abstract ideas and concepts, and they're able to think more logistically. So a deeper ability to reflect and think about symbols, statements, and theories. And so they're moving from egocentrism to abstract thought and logistical thinking. And so we're seeing that skill in logical problem solving and the task is just naturally improved with age. And so as egocentrism is in a decline, we see that previous research has suggested that egocentrism fosters adolescent risk-taking, and there are current perspectives that propose egocentrism may be protective, and often adolescents who feel physiologically invincible tend to be resilient. We also see that during this time, moral judgments of many adolescents and adults are based on formal operational thought. So again, thinking about that risk-taking and also their abilities related to academics. So we see that increased abilities in math and social skills as well as science and science performance because there are increased aspects of logic and abstract thinking. There is increased ability within a school setting. We also see that being able to balance tasks, like balancing a scale with weights, can be a good comparison for what formal operational thought looks like. On this slide, I'm just revisiting deductive and inductive reasoning. So just as a reminder, we see that inductive reasoning does emerge in childhood, so being able to create a general conclusion based on our own experiences and our observations of the world and the ideas that we have concluded from other people who we are close to. And deductive reasoning, this occurs in adolescence, and so we have an idea of a general principle of how the world works, how people work, and then we create opportunities to apply hypotheses and logical explanations for things. So again, we're seeing that aspect of our ability in formal operational thought to have more logistical thinking, our ability to take a generalization about the world or an idea about the world and now putting factual information to it, applying and thinking about the world in a more complex way, our ability to think about things is going to be more complex because as we get older, we learn more about the world. We have more experiences. We're presented with more opportunities to think more critically. And so this is just, again, a little bit of information revisiting these aspects of reasoning. In addition, when moving into a state of formal operational thought, we see that adolescents have the ability to engage in hypothetical deductive reasoning, and so their abilities to problem solve have increased, and they're able to include reasoning that uses propositions and possibilities that may not reflect reality, and this often transforms their perceptions, and this may complicate decision making with immediate and practical questions. And so when thinking about different aspects of theories and when in school, hypothetical deductive reasoning is often happening, as well as when making decisions related to peer groups and their health and well-being. This can be used as an aspect to identify a problem that exists and then try to systematically evaluate different kinds of solutions that may be present. And so I have included a great TED Talk that I would recommend taking a peek at. It kind of dives deeper into risk-taking and how this adjusts and changes teenagers' brains. So I would recommend taking a peek at that. When diving deeper into adolescents' process of thinking and problem solving, we can look at intuition versus analysis. And so when going with our intuition, this arises from our emotions or a hunch. And so this is kind of based on how we feel about a situation or our connectedness to a person or a situation, and an aspect of self-awareness. This is also where we're influenced by past experiences and cultural assumptions that drive our thinking and our ability to make decisions. Whereas with analytic thought, this is where we are systematically ranking the pros and cons, the risks and the consequences, and the possibilities and facts of a situation, a person, an experience. And so we are driving our thought process based on questions. We are looking for factual evidence, and we are also testing out theories and drawing hypotheses. And so we're going into an aspect that is driven by logic and rationality. And so this can kind of be a difficult comparison if we are leading with emotion versus leading with factual information, and this could potentially clash with one another. So this could be if we're thinking about a new love interest that is sparked, or if we want to engage in that risk-taking, we want to hang out with our peers and be well-liked. However, we know that there are some negative consequences potentially to going out and engaging in these kinds of activities. And so we see that analytic thought is a more difficult area to dive into than intuition, because it requires us to examine familiar prejudice and comforting aspects. And so maybe we're going based on emotion or hunch because it feels good and we're used to this. Whereas if we give more analytic thought to a situation or a person, we're presented with more cons, more consequences, more areas that we have to reevaluate. Although we do see a decline in egocentrism as we get older, we still see that young people focus on themselves to the exclusion of others, and often we see that rational judgment is difficult when egocentric emotions are dominant. So just as a reminder, the limbic system is activated by puberty, and the prefrontal cortex is maturing more gradually, and so adolescents are driven by their emotions, and we see that they regard themselves as much more unique, special, and admired or disliked than anyone else considers them to be. And so we see that they have difficulty understanding others' points of view. So as we're starting to have a decline in egocentrism in one aspect, we also see that it is increasing and still present within the adolescent years. So yes, we are able to see the perspective of others. However, it's not often that we're able to take the perspectives of others, especially from adults. And so egocentrism leads adolescents to interpret everyone else's behavior as if it were a judgment on them. And so we see that with maturity, adolescents become gradually balanced in formal and analytical thinking and emotional experiential thinking. So we're driven by our experiences, and experience in decision making and thinking facilitates more accurate use of analysis. And so this is why it's important for adolescents to have opportunities to be put in many different situations within a school setting, with peers, and with adults in order to support the changing of their minds and the emotionally driven morals that they have, as well as being able to provide them with opportunities to think critically, analyze different situations, be put in situations that allow them to use different aspects of inductive and deductive reasoning, as well as take the opportunity to engage with others while still having the thrill of a new sensation in a safe environment. Oftentimes when thinking about adolescent egocentrism, adolescents fall into a few different categories. So we talk about personal fables, invincibility fables, and an imaginary audience. And so these aspects of adolescence fuel and drive their interactions with others. And so with a personal fable, again, we're thinking about ourselves. So egocentrism is driven by our emotions, and it's the way that adolescents are thinking about themselves. So this is related to such behaviors as showing off, risk-taking. Adolescents are in this period because of increased sensation seeking and immature self-regulation, in large due to and result from occurring development of their brains. And so this personal fable, is driven by thoughts, feelings, and or experiences that are unique, more wonderful or awful than those around them. And so we often hear the term with personal fable. Nobody understands me, specifically parents. We hear that adolescents do not feel understood by their parents due to their own experiences and things that are going on in their lives. And how could an older adult who's been through early and late adolescence possibly know what's going on? Ironic, right? Now with invincibility fable, this is where we see more risk-taking occurring. So adolescents, they deem that nothing can happen bad to them. They can overcome anything, and they cannot be harmed by anything that might defeat or be of normal mortal value within their lives. And so this is when we see that they're engaging in risk-taking behavior such as unprotected sex, drug abuse, or high-speed driving. Well, just because multiple people got in a high-speed driving accident, it doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. Or just because many people get STDs and STIs doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. Or just because many people experience death because of drug abuse and overdoses, it doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. Yes, this may be true in part. It might not happen to you. However, human beings are not invincible, nor can they overcome everything within their lives. And so this is where we see that this aspect is tied directly to egocentric thinking. And last but not least, the imaginary audience. So this is when teens, they feel that everybody's watching them and they're paying attention to every little aspect of their lives. Now, yes, we do notice that teenagers tend to make note of appearance, ideas, and behaviors. However, oftentimes this is in a bigger picture of things where teens feel that everybody is watching them, everybody is making note of their appearance, everybody is out to get them, and this makes teenagers more self-conscious and less self-confident. And so we see that this aspect of the imaginary audience often dominates itself online. And before technology explosion, egocentric thought actually decreased with education and conversation and experience. However, now that we see that we have more opportunities to engage in receiving sexting photos, having different aspects of our lives posted online, we see that there is more increased imaginary audience, invincibility fable, and personal fable. So it's fine. I can post, explicit photos online. It's not going to be passed around the school. Invincibility, that's not going to happen to me. But we do see that adults sometimes worry that technology isolates users and that worldwide texting is more likely to cause harm than good, and that senders who deliberately send erotic self-images engage in serious risk-taking, and this can lead to depression. And so bullying also often occurs via the internet. Insults, rumors, texting, anonymous phone calls, lots of things that are happening. And so this could be dominated online. And so we have to kind of take note that technology may be increasing that imaginary audience, whereas it might have been more subdued prior to technology use. To wrap up, just wanted to include a little bit more about technology and cognition. So when we're thinking about technology, we see that there are rapid shifts of attention, multitasking without reflection, visual learning instead of invisible analysis. And so during the time when we want to increase analytical thinking and opportunities for adolescents to engage in thinking in more logical thought, often this can be decreased when we're in video chat rooms, playing video games, engaging in different aspects of texting or sexting. And so we see that there can be dangerous self-destructive behaviors, and that oftentimes adolescents' cognitive growth is benefited from shared experiences and opinions. However, is this a positive opportunity when we are mixing experiences with peers and online media? And so often communication via the internet bolsters fragile aspects of our self-esteem and can decrease our self-esteem when it's already in a fragile state. And so what's happening online is that we're engaging in video games with violent content, and we're engaging in more risky behaviors and decision making with peer pressures such as cyberbullying or sexting. We may even see that adolescents sometimes share personal information online without thinking of the possible consequences. And so we see that with age, adolescents gain or regress in logical thinking, and this can be due to their social context and different aspects of their environments, such as exposure to technology. And so one of the other things that we have to be wary of is that time is taken away from needed play. And so what play looks like for adolescents is hanging out and being social with their peers, engaging in aspects of their academics such as schoolwork, and also developing deep, meaningful connections through friendships. And so we see that oftentimes there is a disconnect and there is not as much opportunity for true meaningful connection if we are just in an online world. And so I did include on the next slide a little bit more about specifically risky decisions in simulated driving games. And so there is a peer influence and adolescent behavior video clip that pairs with the research that I have on the next slide. Just goes a little bit more into that and looking at when peers are put in a virtual world where they're playing a video game where they are asked to make risky decisions. When they are alone, they're not as likely to engage in those risky decisions as opposed to when they are with their peers and there is a peer influence. So take a peek at that, and I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.